Morning, everybody. Welcome to Smack the Market's first live trading stream of the year for 2021. Happy New Year to you as well, Michael. So, as people are joining, let's just go through the usual sort of risk disclaimers. So while we're setting up, just please make sure you read through these. Make sure you're comfortable with them. In brief, what we're saying is that we're not licensed to be able to give any advice. The markets that we're discussing, the potential trading opportunities that we're looking at, are purely for illustration and training purposes. They're our opinion only. They're not meant to be any kind of advice whatsoever. So this year has certainly been quite an interesting time already so far. And the big news today, of course, is that, well, I say it's not the news that we're hearing through the news wires at the moment is that news desks are calling the Georgia vote over to the Dems at this moment in time. That's starting to have a bit of an impact on the equity markets, US equity markets, and that may well be something to take a look at. Okay, so with regards to the disclaimers there, please make sure that you're comfortable with them. As I say, we're not intending to give any advice whatsoever. It's purely our opinions, and this is purely for training purposes only. Morning, everybody. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Satar. Okay, thank you very much. So let's before we get into things, let's just do a quick rundown of where we are at the moment, how the markets are sort of poised at the moment. So, of course, there's huge things going on in the world. We've got new stimulus package over the Christmas period. We've had now Brexit, EU and UK Brexit trade deal done. The new lockdowns and more stimulus being pumped into the system, fueling equity flows or fueling money into the sort of people's bank accounts. So we've got a flux of savings there, which is leaking into the markets, which is certainly helping the US equity markets rise higher. I think the big news today, as I just sort of mentioned, is what is going to happen with this US Senate vote. And as I say, news desks this morning so far are calling the vote over to the Dems at the moment. So that could be quite interesting for American policy and Mr. Biden. Now, with that said, that may well sort of have a bit of an impact on US equity markets, and so far this morning we're already starting to see a bit of a sell-off in those equity markets. I think that Nasdaq is down about 2%, the S&P's about 0.75%, and the Dow sort of shortly behind that. So we'll see how that sort of develops. Of course, that's not sort of confirmed news as yet. If we have a look at straightforward strengths and weaknesses, we've still got weakness in the US dollar. That's been a sort of common theme for a while, and it's sort of picked up over the Christmas period and the early part of this year as well. Today we've got weak yen. We've got weakness in the Cad Yen as well. And I sort of class that as secondary weakness. On the strong side, I've got the euro, the Aussie, and the Kiwi. So through this morning, we've got big news on the euro and also Great British Pound coming through the markets as well. So let's have a look at how things are setting up and how things are poised. So if we take a look at the markets that we discussed on Monday, first of all, we took a look at silver, and we're looking at precious metals higher across the board, really. So that's silver, gold, copper, and platinum. We had a trade in the trading room on platinum yesterday, which went on to 2 targets. Gold and silver are moving higher, sort of quite nicely. But let's take a look at the analysis here. Now, this is silver to start with. we can see that the market has sort of broken out of this sideways consolidation that it's been sort of stuck in for quite a while now, and we're starting to get a resumption of the trend to the long side. If we drill down to that in a bit more detail on the daily time frame, where we were looking at this was really the interest, I suppose, was where the market actually got through that through this sort of breakout here, sort of around the $26 level, and it got out of this whole sideways consolidation. Now we've got a resumption of the trend, as you can see, and the market has now moved on through 2 trading windows, and we're just coming up to another one at the moment. So that's around this sort of 27 sort of 800 price point. And it depends on whether you're looking at the future contract or the CFD contracts. They are slightly different, but you can certainly see here that we've got a structure level through here on the market. It's not necessarily going to stop the trend, but it may well interrupt the flow of the trend just for a short period while it gets through there. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see bit of maybe a bit of a pullback here, but what I'd prefer to see is the market above this level, and above that level then we're looking at a continuation of the market higher. And I think we've probably got up here, easy up here to around that sort of 29 sort of dollar price point up to these sort of recent highs as a next sort of trading window. Now we just bring this down to the 4-hour time frame again. We've got reasonable trend structures on these, looking sort of quite nice. Lower time frames, again, not looking particularly sort of easy underneath this level, but I'd rather see the market, as I say, above that level at this moment in time. So what I've got on the watch list is for silver above this level, and looking for the trend to continue. It's a similar scenario here if we take a look at gold. Let's just have a look at this. Now gold, a little bit behind on the curve, whereas the market is getting into a new sort of trading window, but we've got a rather sort of shallow trading window on gold at the moment. Still got that sort of move from 1950, where it's been sort of consolidating for the past couple of days, up into around sort of 1975, up into these highs here. And I don't think it's not sort of particularly strong, but you can see that there is enough support and resistance around that sort of level to certainly sort of be mindful of that as a trader. So especially considering how the good run that the market's had already, any sort of excuse for a bit of a pullback could give this market a bit of a retracement, and we've certainly got a reason for it coming into those levels. Come down the time frames to the 4-hour time frame. Again, you can start to see some reasonable structure here of trends. We've got some good convergence on these markets as well. So again, another one that I'm liking above that 1950 level here on gold. So silver, gold playing out nicely at this moment in time. We also took a look at dollar yen. So let's have a look at dollar yen. Now, again, on Monday, we had an early part of this week, I should say, not just Monday. We've had strengths and weaknesses in alignment for dollar yen to weaken, to continue the trend, this sort of weekly trend to the short side. The trend has continued. Today we've got strength. Again, we got weakness in the yen. So strengths and weaknesses not perfectly in alignment. We've got weak against weak at the moment, and again, that's why we're seeing a bit of a retracement here on the market. But the real reason for this was that move through that 103 level. If we just mark this on the 4-hour chart, we can see the 103 level, quite a big sort of structure point here, and what we're looking for was a sort of retracement, possibly some sort of trading opportunity around here. Now, interestingly enough, we didn't get a trade on dollar yen because the market pulled right the way back. We had quite a bit of strength flurry into the dollar in the early part of the week, and that pushed the market above the 103 level, and the structure just didn't look particularly nice from a technical perspective, and then the trend continued. Now, still, we've got nice, still lower lows and lower highs, and if we still see some setups here, I still think this market is still poised to continue shorter. But at the moment, today, that may not be the easiest move in the markets, because both markets are looking sort of weak. So we could look at other markets like the dollar Sing. Let's have a look at dollar Sing. So dollar Sing was another market that we had on our watch list, and in actual fact, this was one of the ones that we flagged up as a potential swing opportunity on Monday, which did actually play out, although I didn't manage to take the trade. But if you look at this on the weekly chart, we've got a very solid short trend on the weekly with convergence on these markets as well. If we come down to we can take a look at this on the daily even. You can see that we've got good structure here on the daily as well, and even down here on the 4-hour time frame. Now, if we have a look at this, this was the setup that we were discussing for the swing play, which was the pullback into the moving averages on the 4-hour time frame. This was a 10 o'clock candle. It was an overnight candle, and the market continued to move to the short side. So the sort of thing that I'm looking at here on this one now is, if we, again, bear in mind we've got sort of good trend structure on these. If you come down to the lower time frames, you can start to see that we've got this sort of consolidation starting to form here. But the likelihood here is that we might start to find a bit more of a pause here, or maybe even a small bounce. But so I think the line in the sand really is these lows. You can see from these recent lows, we've had 3 tests now of these lows. So we could have a potential build up here of momentum and a continuation break to the short side, which could give us a breakout. Or indeed, with these types of market structures, one of the things that I prefer to see is a bit of a break, a pullback, and capture the pullback, which would potentially give you a tighter stop opportunity. At the moment, the only sort of stop, or the closest stop opportunity, is up here around that sort of 132 area, and that makes for the trade to be a little on the wider side. So I think dollar Sing is a good one, and my sort of preference at the moment here between the dollar yen and the at the moment. So I've got dollar Sing on the list as well. And if we come over to the Dow, and let's take a look at what's going on with the Dow at the moment. Again, on Monday, as we were looking at, as we're looking for pullbacks and a continuation of the current trend. Now, interestingly, the market has had quite a pullback, and on Monday we had quite a sell-off coming into price action, as you can see from Monday's candle here. And price sort of bounced off that 30,000 level, and now we can see that price is finding support on top of that 30,000 level, and the weekly and the daily time frame trends are still intact at this moment in time. I think the outcome of this sort of Georgia and Senate vote may well sort of help to be a decider here as to whether that's going to potentially give enough weakness and enough concern that the market may break this, or in fact if that can hold. And if that can hold, then I don't see any reason why we don't see a continuation higher here, certainly from a technical perspective at this moment in time. So again, let's just start to come down the sort of time frames. You can see the support here off that 30,000 level. I think even sort of looking in here, you can see the sort of sell-off that we've had so far today. But overall, the higher time frame trend structures are still intact at this moment in time. The story is pretty much the same across the board on the US equity markets, but as I say, we'll certainly sort of find out sooner or later as to whether these key levels are going to hold. But yeah, above 30, I'm still, as long as these markets are sort of holding above that, above these key levels, and these higher time frame trends are still intact, I'm not sort of going to be looking at any sort of longer term shorts for the time being. Okay, so that's a quick update here on the markets that we discussed on Monday. So let's take a look at some fresh markets going into the second half of the week. So again, if you've got markets that you'd like to take a look at, post them into the chat, and we'll take a look at those as well, providing I've got the data for them, of course. If we come over to again the currency markets, and we think about the strengths and weaknesses that we've analysed this morning, so we'd be looking at markets like euro dollar would have strengths and weaknesses supporting it to the long side. So again, if we take a look at euro dollar, and again here you can see we've got a good trend to the long side. Let's just have a look, see what sort of opportunities we've potentially got to, as a trade to get in. I mean, these are running sort of quite nicely at the moment. We just had a raft of euro news. We got some more at 10:40 and 1 o'clock today, and then of course we run into the 3-star announcements from the dollar. So news is certainly a consideration with this market at the moment. I was trying to sort of come down the time frames to see where we're looking at structure. So everything's looking a little bit on the sort of stretch side at the moment. So some sort of pullback into, of course, sort of pullbacks into structure levels, back into moving average zones. Possibly even if we got something back into that sort of 123 area, that could be nice, but it doesn't look like that's happening at this moment in time. So let's have a look at some of the other dollar markets. So if we're looking at again strengths and weaknesses, we could take a look at markets like the Aussie. So again, Aussie dollar have got strengths and weaknesses in alignment for continuation of strong markets today. These trends are still strong as well, as we can see from the longer term trend on these Aussie dollar looking very strong on the weekly chart, even coming down to the 1 hour chart here. Let's have a look at this also on some of the so I mean, this is the 1 hour chart. Again, we're really looking for pullbacks on these. Pullbacks and geometry, I think, on these sort of structures. So nothing here on these at the moment, but we'll certainly keep an eye on these. Let's have a look at the Kiwi. It's probably likely to be fairly similar. So again, we've got things in alignment here with strengths and weaknesses for the Kiwi to move higher against the dollar. Strong trends across the board. Probably a better structure here, I think, on the lower time frames. So this is the 1 hour chart, and even if we come down to the 30-minute chart, or even the 15, not looking too bad. So I think these on the watch list for me, looking for pullbacks. I'd rather see a sort of a bit more of a pullback, even though we've got this sort of trend structure on the 15-minute chart looking sort of quite nice. When you skip up to the 1 hour chart, you have to sort of try and imagine how this market may look if you took a trade from here and it continued higher to achieve your goal. And these markets are already looking a little on the stretch side. I'd prefer to be looking at capturing a position with the market already having a retracement on these slightly higher time frames. So Fergal's posting Aussie Swiss. In fact, Aussie Swiss, let's have a look at Aussie Swiss, since Fergal's having a look at that. Okay. Again, looking nice on the high time frames. I've got Aussie, I've got on my watch list Aussie Yen, Kiwi Yen, also strengths and weaknesses in alignment for those as well to the long side. I think those are still looking a little bit on the stretch side at the moment. I think the Aussie Swiss looking a little bit on the better side, isn't it? Not quite as stretched. So it's on the 1 hour chart. Lower time frame's not looking too bad either on this. Now, what we can't see on this platform is that we've got just underneath just trying to, we have actually pivot points, smack the market's pivot points right in here. So the market's actually sort of found resistance at smack the market's pivots, broken through, pulled back, and now finding support at them. So this could be something to keep an eye on. So it doesn't look to be any other pivot points in the way to the long side. So again, another one for the watch list. The Aussie certainly being strong today. The Kiwi is strong as well. The Swiss being a bit on the neutral side at the moment, so taking advantage of that strength in the Aussie. So I'd also had, let's just have a quick look at some of these others. So I'd had the Aussie Yen, and again, very similar. You can see the strength here in the Aussie Yen, sort of looking very nice. Again, if we just sort of skip down to the 1 hour chart, we've got good trends on these. So again, pullbacks into moving averages, typical momentum setup. That's what we're looking for on these. The Aussie Cad and the Kiwi Cad I also had down as well as strengths and weaknesses supporting these markets to the long side too. So again, if we have a look at Aussie Cad, we've got some very decent sort of trends starting to form here on the higher time frames. And that's the daily. This is the 4 hour. Come down to the 1 hour chart. A little bit on the stretch side here. So again, we're waiting for that sort of pullback So the sort of thing that we could sort of look at here is around this sort of these highs. Sort of pull back into sort of levels like this where we've previously had resistance. Now these areas are likely to be support if the market sort of pulls back into them. So these are sort of much keener for potential sort of setups. So again, if we have a look at this, let's come down the time frame slightly. Again, actually what I haven't got on here is the pivot points, and what we've got at this level here where my line is, we've actually got pivot points as well today. So right across that price point there. So again, a pull back into that sort of area. This is the 15-minute chart. Pull back into this level, even just above there, brings it back into the moving average zone. Looks like a nice area for a momentum setup. We've even got some nice convergence here on the indicators as well. So some fairly decent looking markets and decent looking trends for potential sort of opportunities today. So just to sort of recap, I've got the it's the same, that's the Aussie CAD. Let's have a look at the Kiwi CAD. Again, if we just have a look at this from the higher time frame perspective, looking rather similar to the Aussie CAD. Got some fairly decent sort of moves here and trends. Have a look at the 4 hour. This one clearly needs a bit of a pullback, doesn't it? I think maybe that I think maybe the Aussie one looked a little bit on the easier side. This is coming down to the 15-minute chart. Again, you know, it's a pretty nice sort of move here. We've got convergence on the indicators. We've got the moving averages in alignment. Pretty much the one thing that's just sort of putting me off a little bit here as a trade would be the fact that the hourly chart is a little bit on the stretch side, or maybe more than a little bit on the stretch side. So I prefer to see some sort of pullback. But I think that Aussie CAD had that much better level to pull back into rather than the Kiwi CAD here. So Michael's suggesting the Euro Swiss. Let's have a look at Euro Swiss. Euro Swiss has, in fact, a lot of Swissy markets have been rather sort of choppy price action, haven't they? Yeah, I mean, these, whilst we're still starting to get some kind of sort of trend developing on these, I prefer to wait for things to be a bit more smoothed out. The, I mean, on the, let me just get a bit more perspective on this. So even when we start to mark in some structure, we can see that there's been key support here that the market's now found support at. We've got almost a turnaround of a intraday move at the moment, and certainly on the 4 hour time frame, you know, you can start to see this level a little bit more significantly. But even if we come down to the 15-minute chart, price action is looking rather sort of wicky at this moment in time. So again, this does look like we're going to get a continuation long on this. We started to get a trend forming here to the long side. The euro is still showing strength. The Swissy still neutral. So we've got some sort of support here for the currencies to move in the upward direction. But you know, and we've even got sort of convergence on the indicators as well. But I agree, Michael, the price action is certainly looking a bit on the noisy side there. So we'll see how that one cleans up. So what else have I got on my watch list today? So from this morning, I've had so we've been through the euro. So let's just have a look, see what's happening with the dollar Swiss. So again, dollar Swiss could be another one to keep an eye on. Again, it's a weak market against a neutral market. Fergal sort of covered that in the morning prep this morning. So I've still got that one on the watch list as well. Let's have a look. So the other one that I had was the Cad Yen, and let's just have a take a look at Cad Yen here. Now, a lot of these markets that end up developing into trades, they end up being on a watch list that price action develops over the course of a number of days before we actually sort of get to a point where it's clean enough and decisive enough to place trades. Cad Yen is one that I'm keeping an eye on at the moment as a potential sort of turnaround here. If you look at this from the weekly perspective, you can see that now we've got the context here of a long trend forming. There is certainly a bit of an area up here where we've got some sort of levels in here on the weekly chart. You can certainly see that there with my cursor. That's a bit away. This is a weekly chart, remember. So we've got some resistance up there that the market is moving up towards. We've got higher lows here as the market's moving. If we start to come down the time frames again, you can start to see that we're sort of opening up as a bit more of a developed trend to the long side. And again, the level on this one, if we come to the 4-hour chart, for me is just around that sort of 181, 81 200 area, which is just around here. You can see that we've got previous support also acting as sort of previous resistance. So above here, getting a break above here opens this up. That's going to demonstrate that there is enough strength in this market to break through. If it can break through this structure point, then there is likelihood that we'll see some continued strength to the long side. The weakness in the yen today is certainly helping this one to push higher. But again, at the moment, we've got the CAD being rather weak and also the yen. So both are weak against weak at this moment in time. But they could, again, this may well not set up today. It may well be something that develops over the next sort of few days. But certainly if we see the market pushing or price pushing above that level there, then we've got the next sort of trading window coming into around the sort of 81.5. So we've got a fairly sort of decent size potential sort of move there. Okay, so let me just take a look. So oil has also got up to the sort of $50 level. So that's not such an easy one now. And of course, there's a lot of focus on the oil market at the moment as well as to what's going to happen with that. So again, I think that's one just to sort of stand aside from at the moment. We'll wait for that one to develop. We have a look at oil here. Again, I've sort of come right the way up to the weekly chart, because this was the trading window that we've actually had some trades in this earlier in December. Once the market sort of got through this, on this run up here, but now we're up to this sort of $50 area. You can see that we've got quite a level through here of previous support and resistance structure. We've also closed the gap, so it's quite a decision point area really for oil. Okay, so that's the best that I've got on my watch list at the moment. So if you've got anything else to add, then post it into the chat. We'll take a look at those. Otherwise, we've got quite a bit to keep an eye on today. Let's just see how the dollar Swiss is performing at the moment. The dollar Swiss still looking nice to the short side. No setup on this just yet, but still looking nice. Cable, Sitar. Cable's actually, I was looking at cable this morning, and the Great British Pound is starting to get a bit of strength, and it's certainly the cable has been helped by the weakness in the dollar. So we got that 135.50 area of support, which is just around here. And of course, we've had to pull back into if we look at the general sort of structure and methodology that we use, we can see that the market, within the context of the trend, we've had higher highs and higher lows. With market has just pulled back and potentially put in a higher low at the moment. So even though we've sort of got this setup, potential sort of daily setup here, which I say I use that sort of word lightly because it's not really a setup, is it? It's too big. But we've got the bottoming of the move back, of the retracement here, and we're looking for a continuation higher. So from that perspective, we've now got a break of the high of yesterday's daily candle. So things not looking too bad, looking bullish. Whether it's the easiest market to trade at this moment in time, I'm not sure. They're coming down to the 1 hour time frame. I mean, it certainly looks like the path of least resistance is to the long side, but the intraday timeframes are looking sort of very choppy and sideways on this at the moment. So I prefer to see some sort of trend develop on these. But I think actually out of all of the sterling markets, I think the sterling cable or Great British Pound against the dollar is probably one of the more bullish ones. That looks one of the more sort of cleaner ones out there, but not necessarily the easiest of structures to trade at this moment in time. Okay, so let's start to wrap up here. So again, we got quite a bit there on the watch list today. So there's quite a bit starting to develop in the early part of this year. So that's it's looking good, and I hope that continues. I hope the run through of the markets that we've got on our watch list is of help to you and of interest to you. There's certainly quite a bit to keep an eye on. And if you like these sessions, then remember to subscribe, hit the notifications sort of tab as usual, and then you get notified each time we run one of these. You can also come across to the Smack the Markets websites, join our newsletter, and then you get notified with these sessions and the links to them when we run them as well as our Monday newsletter as well on market analysis. So give us a thumbs up if you like these two, and we'll see you next week on the live stream. And again, for those of you in the trading room, we'll see you in the trading room in the next few minutes. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and happy trading. Bye for now.